If you cut one more thing in my house, I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Can you give me some breakfast?
You don't need food. Cry, or I'm going to have you go upstairs and you won't have any breakfast. My kids are literally starving. I hesitate to say this because it's going to sound like I'm like a mean barbarian. I told the kids, I said, I'm not even going to let you eat breakfast.
You're going to lose the privilege to eat dinner.
The camera's rolling, so I can't get that mad. It helps keep me under control.
Just how many commenters and subscribers and likes is worth abusing your own children?
911, the address of your emergency.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help.
Police say this is the house a young child escaped from and went to a neighbor's house asking for food and water. They said that that child was severely malnourished along with another one they found inside the same home.
Today we are taking a look at the very complicated, twisted, bizarre story that is Ruby Franke. So you've probably heard about her by now. So who is she? Who is Ruby Franke? Ruby was a pretty successful YouTuber, and her whole focus was parenting and, you know, how she parents her children. And it was a very kind of family-oriented YouTube channel that she had. Her kids frequently made appearances in her videos. And the whole focus of it was how she, as a young Mormon mother, parents and how she disciplines.
Everything that comes into this house belongs to who? Yeah. Belongs to me. No! What are you doing? You are so crazy, girl!
Instead of crying, you need to use words to tell me.
Because I was scared of you because you were being so mad.
Eve has been amazingly well behaved for being in town.
But you yelled at me.
Shh. The fact that I yell at my kids is a secret. My kids are not welcome to come live with me after they're 18.
And, you know, for a while she was gaining popularity, but with all these new viewers came some suspicions and some critiques of her parenting. Well, I did a bit of a deep dive and I looked at, you know, every video that I could find. YouTube has deleted her account since then, but there are still videos that you can find. And let's just talk about some of the more surprising and controversial things that happened. So one of the more controversial videos was when her teenage son revealed that he had been sleeping on a beanbag chair in the living room for the past 7 months and didn't have a room.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October. And they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because...
And then I walk out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
Russell got the big bedroom and Chad got the smaller bedroom. And Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room.
The situation here is the punishment does not match the crime. She then took away his whole bedroom, including his bed, and had him sleep on a beanbag chair in the living room. And I mean, even for one night, that seems excessive to me, but for 7 months, that's just insanity, right? Like, that's just way too much. So after she posted that video, which again, she posted it, like she knew what she was doing. She had taken this horrible situation with her son and she willingly posted the video online, which is just bizarre to me. Anyway, after that video was posted, a lot of viewers started to get concerned. And actually at that point, they decided to create a petition to get CPS to come investigate the family because it just seemed bizarre. What's really come out in court, though, has been pretty shocking. I think everyone can agree that it's much, much worse than what was seen online. And obviously that makes sense. She's not going to put the most extreme punishments online. The fact that she thought what she put online already was okay is pretty telling. Let's talk about what she has admitted to doing in court. So far, she said that she has kicked her son while wearing boots. She held his head underwater and cut off oxygen by placing her hands over his mouth. She abused her 9-year-old daughter, forcing her to complete physical tasks and denied her food and water. Again, with this food and water, she's denying them basic life necessities. She would force them to do wall sits for hours. I don't know if you've ever done a wall sit before, but it's hard as hell. And to force your children to do that for hours is wild. Carrying boxes full of books up and down the stairs. Physical tasks for hours and even days at a time. Forced to work outside without shoes on in the summer heat. And punished when caught drinking water. Now, keep in mind, this is in Utah as well. So the Utah summers are not anything to be messed with. It gets incredibly hot, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So these kids were out there receiving the most horrendous sunburns. One person said that their skin was sloughing off of them. And that was punishment for her. Obviously, sunburns are horrendously painful. And to be purposely inflicting that on your children, I mean, that also has dangerous life implications. In court, she's claimed that she did these things out of acts of love because her children were evil and possessed. That sounds like an excuse to me. What do you guys think? Is that, first of all, there's no way that there's any validity to that in the sense that it'll hold up in a court of law and she'll be forgiven or given a lower sentence. It reads like insanity to me, truly. If she actually did believe that, she's crazy.
Good morning. Welcome to District Court. We're here in the matter of State of Utah versus Franke, case number 231501764. Mr. Winward is here representing Ms. Franke. Let's bring her out. And Mr. Clark and Mr. Sham are here representing the State of Utah. Ms. Franke is now here. Mr. Winward, we are scheduled for a waiver hearing. Is there going to be a waiver today?
There will, plus a plea agreement, Your Honor.
All right.
I'll ask the bailiff to hand you if it's been executed.
All right. Mr. Winward, you have discussed with Ms. Franke a preliminary hearing, what's involved in a preliminary hearing. She understands she has a right to a preliminary hearing on all of the charges in the case. She understands what the charges are, and she's prepared to waive a preliminary hearing in the case on all charges.
She is, and that is contained in this agreement on page 7 as well.
Very good. All right, I've been handed a plea agreement, and it appears to be signed by Ms. Franke. Ms. Franke, did you sign this agreement?
Yes.
And you did that today? When did you sign it?
The 18th.
Okay. You've read it carefully?
Every word.
Your signature represents to the court that you've read it carefully, that you understand what you've read, and that you agree to all of the terms. Is that all accurate?
Yes.
You've had sufficient time to ask questions of your counsel, to go over any questions you have. You're ready to go forward.
Yes.
You don't need any more time.
I'm ready.
Ms. Franke, is anyone pressuring you to enter into this agreement?
No.
Anyone promising you anything I haven't been told about?
No.
Anything that's not in the written plea agreement?
No.
Are you under the influence of alcohol or drugs today?
No.
Is there anything today that could in any way interfere with your ability to understand the agreement, its consequences, anything?
No.
No physical condition, no medication, nothing?
No.
Any further record, counsel?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Windward, we ready to proceed?
We are ready to proceed.
All right, then. Ms. Franke, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 3, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 5, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 6, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
So how did she get caught? Her son escaped from his window and ran to the next door neighbor's house and begged for food and water.
911, the address of your emergency.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Okay.
Imagine being so hungry and thirsty as a child where you crawl out of your window to run across the street to your neighbor's house just to beg them for that. It's so upsetting. So after that, police went to her house and arrested her. So how is her family responding to all of this? Her sisters have come out, who are also lifestyle vloggers, influencers, by the way. They came out and said that this, quote, needed to happen.
I am speaking today about my sister Ruby Franke, who was arrested a few weeks ago for child abuse. I've been trying to gather my thoughts for several weeks, and I don't think I'm ever going to have my thoughts completely put together here because it's involved so many people. There's so many little details. I am not going to be a news update. I will not update you on news. I will not give all of the little nitty-gritty details. I know I don't need to sit here and defend myself. I know I don't need to go into the history of what has happened. So we'll see where this goes and how much I get into. But the past few weeks have been extremely hard. Not only did all that happen with Ruby, but I had just moved to a new state, and Landon had to go back to Utah to finish up his dissertation for his degree. And so I've been settling into a new home with the kids without his help, and all of this fell down. So I literally have not had the physical or emotional capacity to address anyone, nor do I need to address anyone. But here we are. 3 years ago, Ruby, everything was great. It seemed to be fine anyway. We were a typical family. She was getting some therapy counseling because their family needed it, which I think is great. However, I think you need to get it from a great source. Read the reviews. Jody Hildebrandt and her website or therapy style, I don't know what you want to call it, connections, was not a great resource. And we all saw it. We all felt weird about this Jody lady. We weren't comfortable with it. We didn't like it. We didn't like the teachings Ruby was bringing to the family functions, and we were this close to telling her, if you come to our family events anymore, we do not want to hear what you were learning through connections because we don't like it. We never did say that to her, but we thought it. Anyway, so 3 years ago, Ruby and I hung out bottling tomatoes, and then a few weeks later, crap hit the fan and she left the family. And she didn't even call me to say, hey, you know, Julie, you're doing this and this, and I don't like it. You're living your life in distortion, so I'm gonna have to take some time away from you. No, literally nothing. She did call my mom and yelled at my mom on the phone for 45 minutes and accused her of things that were not true. It was almost as if Ruby had been making up memories from her childhood. She was trying to grab at anything she could, and she would exaggerate on everything. So she started all of her lies back then, lying to everyone in her life, getting rid of all of her friends and family, and I literally had no contact with her. She wouldn't respond to any texts or emails over the time that I tried reaching out to her. Never got a response from her. So I was very fortunate to have been able to reach out to her daughter Sherry once she was an adult, and we were able to form a really close, strong relationship, which I am grateful for. And it was then that I learned more about Ruby, and it was then that Sherry had learned about lies that had been told to her. I feel like me and my other sisters have said, we feel like we've just been kind of floating on a cloud here these past few weeks. We are in complete shock still as to what she had done, because we had no idea of what was happening. Basically, I'm here to say that I had no idea what was happening. Like Bonnie mentioned in her video, we are not going to let Ruby destroy another thing in our lives. We have our platforms where we try and bring brightness and positivity into other people's lives, and that is why we didn't talk about Ruby in our content for the past 3 years. Yeah, we try and show the highs and lows of everyday family and parenting, but Ruby's topic was not supposed to be part of that content, and it was none of your business. It was nothing that we needed to talk about, and I wasn't sure if her kids were maybe still watching these videos, and I didn't want to be not tactful and slander their mom and then have them watch those videos. That didn't sound like a nice thing to do either, and so that is another reason why we didn't talk about the subject of Ruby for the past few years on my channel.
This feels like a very impossible video to make. I know that my words will be used against me. I also know that my words may help people understand me a little. I can only speak for myself, and I will only be speaking for myself, other than the judge has asked us not to speak on certain topics that I will not be touching on. What my family and I have gone through the last couple of weeks is the worst thing that has ever happened to us. I spent the first week in complete shock, where I felt my body and my mind and my emotions were completely paralyzed because of the just absolute shock of all of this. The more I learn, my feelings are turning more to anger. I am mad. I am mad at what has happened. I am beyond disgusted, and I feel like it makes me tremble. It makes me tremble because it is unheard of. It's truly unbelievable. Something that I pride myself on, something that I enjoy doing, is being transparent. And I cannot be fully transparent with certain aspects of this. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand how the system works. The first thing that I want to say is that we have kept quiet for 3 years on the topic of our sister Ruby and Jody and Kevin and connections. That is what we have stayed quiet about. We did not know what they were doing because, like we said, we were cut off. We did not have access to anyone. My thoughts towards Ruby and Jody and Kevin and connections is that it was all bullcrap. It was complete indoctrination of this thing that they created. I don't agree with how extreme they are on everything. I knew they were weird. I knew that they were off. Those are the things that we kept quiet about, because what was I going to say? What was I going to do? I was not going to come out and publicly say that I don't like my sister and I don't like what she's doing and I think she's weird. That is what we kept quiet about. It wasn't until about a year ago when we were able to reconnect with Sherry. Again, we kept that quiet. We never came out and said anything. You guys saw us together, and those were little glimpses when Sherry was ready to allow us to show those glimpses with her permission. And it was then that we were learning slowly bits and pieces of more. And that's where the part of behind the scenes, we did everything that we could. We did everything legally that we could do. And for those that were saying that they'd go in and bust down doors and do whatever it took to end up in jail, because from jail, I can't do anything. So I still stand by what I said, is that I did everything that I could with the knowledge that I had and within the legal rights to Ruby and Kevin. The one person that could have done something within his legal right was Kevin. We had zero contact with him. It was Kevin's job to check in on things, and he did not. So when I say that Ruby and Kevin and Jody and connections have been destroying our lives offline for the last 3 years, that is exactly what they've been doing, causing turmoil within our family. We would talk in circles because nothing made sense. Nothing made sense of what they were saying, of what they were doing.
The one that was really powerful to me was her eldest daughter, Ruby's eldest daughter, posted on Instagram the day that her mom was arrested. She wrote, "Finally, today has been a big day. Me and my family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell the police and CPS for years about this, and so glad they finally decided to step up."
The last 6 months have been difficult, but I have felt everybody's prayers, lots of therapy, lots of writing. I've written a ton, and it's helped a lot, and I'm ready to start sharing my life again.
That's really wild to me, imagining being the eldest daughter of a mommy lifestyle vlogger type person who knows the reality of the situation at home. She knows that her younger siblings are being abused and then turned around and used as some like for-profit prop that she's putting on her YouTube channel. And not only that, that the woman who's abusing her children is giving active advice to other young parents, and probably had a number of viewers who empathized with her, sympathized with her, and thought, you know, some of her tips and tricks were maybe good and valuable. And as the older daughter, knowing firsthand just how bad it can get, and then watching her be seen as some kind of authority figure on good parenting. Another really interesting part of this case is Ruby's business partner and close friend, Jody. So Jody was also arrested at the same time that Ruby was. And Jody started out as kind of a life coach / therapy person who was helping Ruby and Ruby's now ex-husband through a tough marital time. And at Jody's suggestion, Ruby kicked her husband out of the house. She said, you know, if you want this marriage to work, you need to leave the living space. Now, this is apparently when the abuse of the children got really bad. Jody also ended up moving in with Ruby, which is why the pair of them were arrested. They also had a business together where, again, they talked about parenting and parenting advice and tips and how they would handle certain situations, etc.
Anger is actually one of my most favorite emotions. When I first started getting to know you, she's like, anger is my favorite emotion. I'm like, I don't know what I'm dealing with here.
Now, I've seen some things online talking about how Jody moved in and corrupted Ruby into thinking that these methods of punishment were effective and good and acts of love for the children. Perhaps there's an element of truth to that. I think Ruby had made it pretty clear already, though, just what a bad parent she is.
Got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? this happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch. And it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
One thing I'm really curious about is the husband and how he plays into all of this. Like I said, he had already been moved out of the house by the time Jody came in, which is when it got really bad. But he'd been around. I mean, he's in tons of the vlogs before he moved out.
Chad today has just entered the Anasazi Foundation Wilderness Therapy Program, where he's going to spend the next 8 to 10 weeks living in the
Anasazi Desert.
Yeah, the desert mountains of Arizona. And he'll be with counselors and other youth that are trying to figure some things out. And it's reached a point where Chad needs to develop some very basic maturity and skills that he's going to need as an adult.
A chance for like a reset.
So the idea is with wilderness therapy is if you can survive with these peers in the wilderness with nothing more than the clothes on your back and a couple of field supplies, then there's nothing in this world that you can't tackle.
They do not sleep in tents. They sleep on the bare ground and
whatever shelter they can
or
make.
if they can make a shelter, they can sleep in the shelter they make.
So he must have known and been aware on some level of just how harsh Ruby can be. The good news is that Ruby has pleaded guilty. Her sentencing is scheduled for February 20th, so that's when we'll get to hear more details of it and just what, her punishment will be. What do you guys think? What would you, in a perfect world, what kind of punishment would an abusive mother like this get? What are your thoughts on it? I mean, it's really upsetting. On one hand, obviously, she needs serious jail time and rehabilitation. And on the other hand, for the kids, they're losing a very abusive mother, but still a mother nonetheless. I'm sure they have very complicated and all kinds of twisted up feelings regarding their mom. Maybe, they might still feel love towards her and not realize yet just how abusive she is and was to them. And it's something that they'll be grappling with for probably the rest of their lives. I think the reality is Ruby didn't like her kids, or she didn't want to have kids, and yet she had created this person as a mommy vlogger, and this was her career, and her personality now was this whole brand that she had made up for herself. And even though she didn't like her kids, they were essential to this role that she had made for herself. And when I hear these stories, the first thing I think is, well, usually, how could she do this? And the second, it's like, she didn't like them. You see how she treats her kids in these videos. She doesn't want to be around them. She doesn't like them. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of True Crime Producer. I'm your host, Chantal. See you next time.